Sure. So we did a roundtable with some eminent scientists and medical researchers, and the data that's coming in on this is showing for healthy kids very little benefit in terms of what the vaccine is doing, and that's weighed against the fact that they're at very, very low risk. If you look at teenage boys between 13 and 18, there's been an increase signal for things like myocarditis. There's other things that people are trying to come to grips with. There's going to be a lot more research done, but you know, one of the studies that was looked at to approve the Pfizer vaccine for young people found no hospitalization and death in the vaccine arm, which is good. But they found no hospitalization and death in the placebo arm either. And so they're very low risk for this. We, of course, oppose mandates in terms of this and have barred mandates in Florida. But, you know, I've had a lot of parents come and ask, just saying, hey, is this something I should do? You know, I got a 5-year-old, I got a 6-year-old, and it's their choice. They can do what they want. But I think what Florida's guidance reflects is the latest research on all of this. And, you know, CDC, with all due respect, you know, they have not followed the science throughout all this. They've done a lot of political science. They are stopping, they've changed the guidance in like the last week or two with no change in underlying data. They just did it more for political purposes. And so we are not just going to follow the CDC in the state of Florida. I think a lot of people have lost confidence in the CDC, and I think that's a huge majority of Americans that have lost confidence. So it doesn't mean because they say it, we won't do it. We're going to do it on our own, but clearly the fact that they say to do it is not going to be enough. We're going to do our own stuff. And so I think the Surgeon General was really concerned just that this was something that was being pushed on people. And you have your right to make your own decision for your kids, and we're not going to interfere in that in any respects. But weighing the costs and benefit, virtually every one of those experts we had today said probably didn't make sense, and I think that's probably the right way to view it.
What are you saying to the parents?
No, it's not sending a mixed message. What it's doing is what's really been lacking from the very beginning of this pandemic with how the medical establishment, the bureaucracy, people like Fauci have responded to it. There needs to be nuance because you have to understand COVID is dramatically more risky for someone that's 85 than it is for someone that's 5. And so how you would approach vaccinations of seniors, which we really worked hard to get very early on and did well in Florida on that, versus how you would view all these things with kids, school closures, masking, all this stuff, you need to view it against the backdrop of what the risks are. So some of the researchers we had today were big proponents of elderly, high-risk people getting the COVID vaccination. But they said with kids, the calculation is different. So it's not saying to tell them to do this in like a broad way of saying this is never good for anybody. No, not at all. But when you have very low-risk people, there's not been clinical support that this is really moving the needle in a positive direction. And here's the thing I think parents are concerned about. Are they going to have to get a Pfizer shot every 6 months for their 5-year-old? Is that just something that's going to last indefinitely going forward? And we don't know what the implications necessarily of that would be. So it is looking at the data as it is, looking at where the risks are, and then weighing the benefit to somebody who's incredibly low risk. One of the guys we had today said, you know, they've not been able to really identify someone who is truly healthy with no comorbidities, who've been under 18, you know, who have had a COVID death. Now, other people may disagree, but bottom line is this is a very small number of people that we're dealing with. And so that's just weighing the cost benefit. Individuals can make their own decision, though, on this, but I think the data is in line with what the Surgeon General recommended.